This week we get Alice in Soulslike Land, a game built on the literal junkyard of EVE Online, and so much more. Most extraction shooters let you lose your own loot when you die. In EVE Vanguard, it might possibly not even be yours to begin with. The upcoming FPS takes place in the universe of EVE Online. But instead of commanding giant fleets from orbit, you play as a war clone. Basically an expandable mercenary shell sent planetside, which means hostile worlds covered in shipwrecks, abandoned facilities, and battle debris. In this landscape, that's not exactly holiday material, you search for resources and rare technology to bring along with you. Of course, all before other players, giant drones, or the environment itself try to put an end to your expedition. Preferably not all three at once. The extraction loop revolves mainly around risk management, as the longer you stay on a planet, the worse things get. Massive nemesis drones start hunting you down, and rivaling players may decide your backpack looks far more interesting than theirs. Successful runs let you upgrade weapons, armor, and equipment, which is standard extraction shooter behavior, really. What makes Vanguard stand out is how deeply it connects to the larger EVE universe. And we don't mean like blockchains, because gladly this game doesn't include any of those. But you might just reap the spoils of battle, as destroyed ships from actual EVE Online clashes can appear as wreckage on planetary surfaces. This then allows players to recover valuable modules and smuggle them back into the MMO economy as contraband. So somewhere out there, a space billionaire may suddenly discover that parts of their fleet are now being sold by an ordinary guy or girl wading knee-deep through swamp water. The look on their faces is surely priceless. The game is currently in early alpha state, so the specifics can change at any time. But as it stands right now, there are different modes for different group sizes. Everything from small duo squads up to 9 vs 9 groups in PvPvE missions. Early access is currently planned for late 2026 and an upcoming alpha on Steam in mid-July. So if you're interested, don't forget to sign up. My favorite tale, Alice in Wonderland, has been reimagined many times before. But while the whimsical ones were cool, the real standouts were the darker ones, like Alice Madness Returns, as an adult at least. Unfortunately, they never made a part 2 of that, but today we might get another successor. Project Rabbit is an upcoming action RPG mixed with Soulslike from a South Korean studio and takes place inside the Abyss of Time, a fractured realm where different worlds and civilizations have merged together after dimensional boundaries broke apart. The result is an amazingly bizarre mix of gothic castles and twisted landscapes. You follow Alice through this mess while uncovering what caused the collapse and why the entire world seems to be stuck in an endless cycle of decay. Gameplay-wise, this is very much built around high-risk exploration and the Souls-like combat style. You dodge, parry, and manage stamina while fighting grotesque enemies, with multi-phase bosses that look very eager to punish panic rolling. Damn, that's my weak point. But unlike most Souls-likes, Project Rabbit thought that just having punishing combat is for the weak and also plans to add optional PvP with extraction mechanics on top. Just why does everyone and their mother have to add extraction to each game? Oh man. I'll still wait and hope for a PvE only mode before crying in my exhausted by extraction corner. Feel free to join me. Anyway, the visual direction is easily the standout feature so far. Although this game is not the first one to mix Eastern and Western styles. I feel like we've had a few of these lately. Still, the environments combining traditional Korean architecture with dark European fantasy aesthetics is surely an eye-catcher. All we know about co-op so far is that up to 3 players can team up to tackle bosses together. The game is coming soon to Steam. Have I ever said how much I love Dave the Diver? If not, now you know. And also, I have always wished it had multiplayer. At least a little. So now if you take that underwater diving, fish collecting gameplay and pair it with some Stardew Valley style charm, but yet totally different gameplay, welcome to Tideborne Haven. In most cozy games, the trope is to fix up a farm. This game here instead hands you an entire island ecosystem and expects you to save it. And there's a lot that needs saving. Polluted beaches, dying coral reefs, rundown buildings, and an island community that is seemingly pretty much waiting for someone else to put in the work. Good thing you're here now. One of the standout mechanics is coral restoration, where you rescue surviving coral samples, grow them in controlled tanks, and later reintroduce them into damaged reefs. You can rescue injured wildlife as well, and not just those living in the sea, but birds, bees, and mammals as well, before releasing them back into the wild. There are said to be 150 species in the game, and thank God capybaras are one of them. Fish can be kept to breed and release different species, which stabilizes the ecosystems. Above water, there is some more familiar life sim gameplay. You repair rundown buildings, help townsfolk, remove pollution and invasive species, and rebuild parts of the settlement. Seasonal events and festivals switch up the daily gameplay. And if that's something you love in life sims, there is also a relationship system around the unique villagers, and it looks like you may be able to marry them as well. There's also a larger narrative underneath all the restoration work. You uncover old legends, ancient temples, and even investigate suspicious activities tied to smuggling operations on the island. Apparently, there will even be pirates, mermaids, and what looks to be Davy Jones. Multiplayer is mentioned on the Steam page, but details are still vague for now. At the moment, this definitely looks more focused on a story-driven solo experience rather than a larger co-op sandbox like Stardew. Hopefully, we'll be able to play through the entire game together, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. This is an indie project that doesn't have a release date yet, but there is a Kickstarter campaign coming up in June. In some games, enemies are drawn to noise, but in Symbiosis, they are drawn to electricity. A rather suboptimal starting point for anyone hoping for more light than a shabby candle at night. You play on a hostile alien planet where every machine, turret and automated system you build creates electromagnetic pollution, which basically acts like a dinner bell for giant monstrosities. So your base defenses are also the reason you need base defenses in the first place. The game mixes top-down shooting with survival, exploration and base building in a way that looks heavily inspired by games like The Riftbreaker. And we mean really heavily inspired. I mean, sure, you didn't bring your Mac, but otherwise... Probably better should have, as you play as one of the several expendable scouts sent to reclaim a failed research planet. From there, things quickly turn into a constant balancing act between pushing farther into dangerous territory for better resources and somehow surviving the night afterward. Just like when Nox concentrated a little too much on building that outpost in Riftbreaker and conveniently ignored the swarm incoming alert. Because at night, swarms of hybrid machines descend on your base while automated turrets, walls and kill zones try to hold the line around your core. See, that's how you're supposed to defend yourself. Naturally, the more advanced your technology becomes, the worse these attacks get. So the game probably only ends when either you or the enemy has gone completely extinct. During the day, the planet itself pitches in, trying its hardest to kill you with storms and toxic environments. The game supports up to 4 players in co-op, but according to the developers, multiplayer is still being refined. There is currently a demo on Steam, and early access is planned for later down the road. But what's your take? Too close to Riftbreaker, or the more the merrier? Let us know. Turns out, constantly fearing betrayal, losing all your gear and getting hunted across a hostile planet is not exactly everyone's definition of a relaxing evening after work. After mixed feedback since launch, Marathon will be experimenting with 2 new PvE-focused game modes in Season 2, which is coming on June 2nd. We don't have the full details yet, but one mode is PvE-focused with light PvP, where seemingly less enemy teams will be present, or maybe even rules that discourage hunting others. The other mode will be introduced mid to late season. It removes PvP entirely and focuses on purely co-op-centered objectives against AI enemies instead, where crews work together to complete shared objectives. This one actually sounds absolutely amazing. We hope it will be fun enough to keep players around, like a stylized Helldivers 2. Bungie says the goal is to support different playstyles without replacing the main extraction mode, so don't worry if you enjoy the previous hardcore tactical survival. If your storage in Arc Raiders currently looks like a post-apocalyptic junkyard, the new Trader update may finally give you a reason to clean it out. They now appear for high-level players, trading cosmetics, blueprints, and even premium currency in exchange for rare materials and valuable gear instead of regular money. More importantly, players can unlock temporary stash expansions and a special vault that lets you safely carry a handful of prized items into future runs. The only important thing missing at this point are collector's vaults for rubber ducks and a nicer home for Scrappy the Rooster. Void Crew's new Maximum Calamity update adds dynamic calamities like massive black holes that suddenly drag ships and players towards certain doom. Relaxing. The update also adds larger fleet battles, new weapons, and expanded modding support. But let's be honest, what we want most is that player roasting board computer. FragPunk's new season also introduces Calamity, but this time a very welcome one. Who cares that she's a cybernetic assassin? She's right up there on the hot crazy scale. And for the few still paying attention, her abilities focus on dealing damage to build up healing and combat buffs, while also granting short bursts of invulnerability. Okay, no one's listening anymore anyways, so let's just enjoy the footage. Just in time for the annual Warhammer festival, Warhammer Skulls, we have a handful of Warhammer games free to play over the weekend, including Total War 3 and Warhammer 40k Battle Sector. But even better, the 2018 turn-based 4X strategy game Gladius Relics of War will be free to keep forever if you add it to your Steam library before May 28th. And if you're more into cooperation than warfare, the silly Ratatouille-inspired co-op cooking game Restorats and the co-op tabletop RPG Thunderfolk are also holding a free-to-play weekend. But if you're a loyal news viewer, you already secured the last one to keep forever, haven't you? See, it always pays off to stay until the end. Anyways, that's all for this week. We hope you're having the time of your life in co-op with your favorite people, and we'll see you again in the next one.